Imagine standing in a place so silent that you can hear your own heartbeat echo against the icy winds. A land where the sun sometimes refuses to set for months, only to vanish completely and leave a long, frozen night in its place. Before we start exploring this enigmatic realm, I want you to do something. If you love diving deep into the world's biggest mysteries, hidden histories and secrets of the Earth, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to Pharaoh Code, and tell us in the comments what you'd do if you ever stepped foot on this frozen continent. Your support is what fuels our journeys into the unknown. Now close your eyes and picture the Arctic. You might see images of polar bears drifting along ice floes, or shimmering curtains of auroras dancing in the sky. But let me stop you right there. We're not talking about the Arctic today. We're going much farther south, so far south that there's no north left to go. Welcome to Antarctica. Antarctica sits at the very bottom of our planet, completely surrounded by the Southern Ocean, covered almost entirely by a thick sheet of ice that in some places is nearly 3 miles deep. It is the coldest, driest, windiest, and highest continent on Earth. You might think of it as just a giant block of ice, but this place holds secrets and stories that might change the way you look at our planet forever. It's astonishing to think that most people will never set foot in Antarctica. In fact, if you walk into a room of 1,000 people, odds are none of them have been there. Only a few thousand visitors make it each year, and even fewer have ventured deep into its icy heart. Those who do go are usually scientists conducting delicate research, or a handful of extreme adventurers looking to push the limits of human endurance. Why don't we all just hop on a plane and go? Well, aside from the obvious, extreme cold, rough seas, and eye-watering travel costs, Antarctica is protected by something called the Antarctic Treaty. Signed in 1959, this agreement turned Antarctica into a natural reserve dedicated to peace and science. It forbids military activity, nuclear tests, and mineral mining. It also places strict controls on tourism and scientific operations to prevent damage to its fragile environment. The ecosystem here is so delicate that a single footprint could disrupt centuries of microbial life hidden in the snow. Visitors must follow strict guidelines: no taking rocks or plants, no feeding or approaching wildlife, and absolutely no leaving behind trash or human waste. Imagine travelling for thousands of miles, braving bone-chilling winds, and when you finally arrive, you're told not to touch a thing. It sounds harsh, but it's necessary to preserve one of the last true wildernesses on Earth. Could you live in Antarctica? Technically, nothing in international law prevents it, but let's be real. Temperatures in some interior parts can drop below -100 degrees Fahrenheit. Winds can reach hurricane force, and during winter, darkness engulfs the land for months. The nearest civilization is over 1,000 miles away. Without advanced equipment and constant supplies, you'd be facing an almost certain death sentence. Even today, no one lives there permanently. Only temporary research station crews who rotate in and out. But how did we even find this hidden land in the first place? Ancient philosophers speculated about a southern continent they called Terra Australis Incognita, meaning unknown southern land. They believed it must exist to balance the continents of the north. The Greeks called it Antarctic, meaning opposite the bear, referring to the Ursa Major constellation visible in the northern hemisphere. Yet it wasn't until the age of exploration that humans truly began to uncover Antarctica's existence. The great navigator James Cook was the first to cross the Antarctic Circle in 1773, sailing farther south than anyone before. Although he never saw the continent itself, he spotted floating icebergs containing rocks, strong evidence of land nearby. The first confirmed sighting of the Antarctic mainland happened in January 1820, when a Russian expedition under Fabian Gottlieb von Bellingshausen caught sight of an icy coast. But it wasn't until 1895 that humans actually set foot on this forbidding continent during a whaling voyage that made a brief landing at Cape Adare. Today, we know Antarctica is technically a desert, the largest and driest in the world. Most people think of deserts as places of sand dunes and cacti, but in Antarctica, it's the lack of precipitation that makes it a desert. The interior receives barely 2 inches of snow each year. Instead of rainfall, you get endless sheets of ice and biting winds. It's a land where water is everywhere, yet almost impossible to drink without melting it first. One of the strangest aspects of life on Antarctica is time, or rather, the absence of it. The South Pole is the point where all lines of longitude meet, so technically every time zone converges there. Most research stations simply adopt the time zone of the country that operates them. But this makes coordination a logistical nightmare, especially when trying to schedule meetings or supply drops. Imagine calling someone next door and accidentally waking them up at 3 a.m. because you're on a different official time. Despite the extreme conditions, life still finds a way here. Antarctica is home to billions of krill, the small shrimp-like creatures that form the foundation of the entire food web. These krill attract massive numbers of seals and penguins, turning the icy waters into a living, churning feast. Among the stars of the show are the emperor penguins, the largest penguin species on Earth. These birds endure months of bitter darkness and freezing temperatures while they incubate their eggs on their feet. Their social behavior is equally remarkable. They huddle together in tight formations, rotating positions so each individual spends time in the warm center and the freezing edge. Seals, too, have adapted spectacularly to life in these icy waters. Weddell seals, for example, can dive over 2,000 feet deep and hold their breath for more than an hour. And let's not forget the whales. Every Antarctic summer, blue whales, humpbacks and orcas arrive to gorge on krill. Watching these giants glide through the water is like witnessing a slow-motion ballet on a scale we can hardly comprehend. And what about those strange doorways and pyramids that conspiracy theories love to talk about? One so-called mysterious doorway spotted on satellite images turned out to be nothing more than a rocky ridge poking through melting ice. The wind and melting patterns gave it an eerie rectangular shape, sparking wild imaginations about alien bases or hidden cities beneath the ice. Similarly, the so-called Antarctic pyramids are simply mountain peaks shaped by relentless winds and ice. While it might disappoint sci-fi fans, the reality is no less incredible. These mountains tell a story of an ancient Earth, reshaped by ice and time. There was even a supposed ice ship found near the shore, fueling rumours of hidden technology or lost civilizations. But further analysis showed it was merely a large chunk of ice sculpted by wind and water. The so-called ship vanished during the summer melt. Still, real mysteries do lurk beneath the ice. One remarkable discovery involved a giant ice canyon hidden beneath the Antarctic ice shelf, reminiscent of the Grand Canyon. Scientists used a submarine robot named Ran to map over 600 miles beneath the ice. The footage revealed ice mountains, deep valleys and swirling patterns sculpted entirely by glacial forces. Unfortunately, Ran vanished during its mission, possibly nudged by a curious seal. Scientists believe it might have shut itself down to conserve power and remains lost beneath the ice to this day. Then there's Lake Vostok, a massive freshwater lake buried 2 miles beneath the ice. Untouched for up to 15 million years, it could host unknown microbial life forms adapted to total darkness and crushing pressure. Scientists drill carefully, hoping to avoid contaminating this pristine world. What lies in those icy depths could offer clues to life on other planets like Jupiter's moon Europa or Saturn's Enceladus. The deeper we dig, literally and figuratively, the more we realize that Antarctica isn't just a barren wasteland, but a time capsule. It contains air bubbles trapped in ice that reveal what our atmosphere was like hundreds of thousands of years ago. It holds fossil evidence suggesting that lush forests once grew here, hinting at a radically different Earth millions of years ago. In a strange way, Antarctica represents both the beginning and the end. It's a mirror reflecting the fragile balance of our planet. The melting of its glaciers serves as a loud warning about climate change, impacting sea levels worldwide. At the same time, Its untouched, alien-like landscapes invite us to imagine what Earth might have looked like long before humans appeared, and what it could look like long after we're gone. So the next time you see a map and glance down at that stark white mass at the bottom, remember it's not just empty space. It's a living, breathing part of our planet, full of mysteries still waiting to be uncovered. From its towering ice shelves to the tiniest krill, from ancient buried lakes to wind-carved rock formations that spark wild legends, Antarctica challenges us to look beyond the horizon of what we think we know. All right, let's talk Antarctica. The icy, remote, massive southern continent that feels like the final frontier of our planet. Picture this. A land bigger than Europe, shrouded in endless ice, battered by winds that could knock you off your feet and so cold it makes your freezer look like a tropical resort. We often imagine Antarctica as a lifeless sheet of white, but beneath that ice is an entire universe of secrets, canyons deeper than we ever expected, hidden lakes with alien-like life, lost rivers, ancient forests, and even bizarre signals that had scientists scratching their heads and the media screaming about parallel universes. Let's start with one discovery that happened almost by accident. During a storm at the Casey Research Station, a team of sound experts found themselves grounded. Instead of just sitting around sipping hot chocolate, they used that time to map the seafloor near Adams Glacier. And what they found was mind-blowing. A canyon nearly 7,000 feet deep, about 30,000 feet wide, and stretching more than 28 miles away from the glacier. Imagine that. A canyon under the ocean, almost like an underwater Grand Canyon, just chilling there beneath layers of ice and waves. The team managed to collect 15 hours of data, despite battling waves as high as 13 feet and vicious winds that would make most of us cry for our mamas. These maps are helping scientists understand how Antarctica's ice sheet interacts with the ocean and how glaciers have behaved over millions of years. And speaking of hidden wonders, did you know there's a lake in Antarctica that's not entirely frozen? Lake Enigma, and yes, that's actually what it's called, had long been thought to be completely solid ice. But when researchers finally drilled down, they discovered a layer of liquid water about 40 feet deep under all that ice. Inside, a whole alien-like world of microbes. These microbial mats formed bizarre structures. Some looked like spiky carpets, others like tiny underwater trees growing up to 16 inches tall. And here's the kicker. Many of these microbes could do photosynthesis even though they live under ice. It's like an underwater garden from another planet. And because these extreme conditions are similar to what we might find on icy moons like Europa or Enceladus, this discovery fires up the imagination about life beyond Earth. What if there really are lakes on other moons full of strange, resilient life? Then there's the amber. Yes, actual amber. Those shiny golden droplets you normally associate with ancient insects stuck inside. Scientists found tiny pieces of amber in Antarctica's mudstone for the first time ever. This proves that Antarctica wasn't always a frozen wasteland. Around 90 million years ago, it was home to a lush rainforest with towering resin-producing trees. These trees had to survive long, dark winters, so they'd go dormant for months, waiting for the sun to return. When these trees leaked resin, it got trapped and protected by water and mud, freezing it in time. Just imagine, Antarctica once looked more like the Amazon than an icebox. The amber itself is so small that it looks like little orange and yellow beads under a microscope, but it carries the story of an entire lost ecosystem. Now let's talk penguins. A scientist scanning satellite images stumbled upon something fascinating: 4 new emperor penguin colonies. These birds leave behind brown trails of waste that show up clearly from space, and that's exactly how they were spotted. Some of these colonies are small, with fewer than 1,000 breeding pairs. One colony was found near the Lazaroff ice shelf, where an older, larger colony was thought to have vanished in 2019. Turns out the penguins didn't disappear, they just relocated because of changing sea ice conditions. By tracking them, we're learning about how these birds adapt to a constantly shifting environment and what that might mean as the climate continues to change. But we're not done yet. Let's rewind time, way back. About 40 million years ago, there was a massive river system flowing through Antarctica. This river started in the Transantarctic Mountains and ran for over 930 miles before dumping into the sea. Scientists discovered evidence of this ancient waterway by analyzing sediments pulled from the seabed. These sediments contained tiny grains of uranium and lead, clues that told the story of where they came from and when. Some sediment layers matched patterns similar to modern river deltas, like the Mississippi. Digging deeper, researchers also found microfossils, signs of life that once flourished along those ancient rivers. Studying these layers helps scientists model Earth's past climate and can even hint at what might happen in the future. Now for a mind-bending twist. In 2020, news headlines erupted claiming that NASA had discovered a parallel universe in Antarctica where time runs backward. You might have seen those stories. They went absolutely viral. But what really happened? Scientists were using an instrument called ANITA, short for Antarctic Impulsive Transient Antenna. Picture a massive balloon floating over Antarctica with antennas dangling beneath it. The system is designed to detect neutrinos, tiny subatomic particles so ghostly that they usually pass through entire planets like they're nothing. Normally, high-energy neutrinos come from space, hit the ice, and generate radio signals that ANITA can catch. But one day, ANITA detected signals that seemed to come up from under the ice, as if neutrinos were travelling through the entire planet and shooting up into the air. That shouldn't be possible. In theory, neutrinos that energetic should be blocked by the Earth's interior, absorbed long before they could emerge. So, what was going on? Some researchers proposed a radical idea. What if these signals were evidence of a CPT symmetric universe? In physics, CPT stands for charge, parity and time, three fundamental symmetries. The idea is that if you flip charge, turning matter into antimatter, flip space, a mirror image and reverse time, the laws of physics still work. This sparked the wild theory that perhaps there's a mirror universe made of antimatter, running backward in time, and that these neutrinos were peeking into our reality from that reversed world. But here's the truth. This is purely speculative and not proven. The scientists themselves said the signals might have been caused by experimental noise or simpler explanations. But of course the media grabbed the most dramatic angle. A parallel universe where people age backward and physics goes haywire. Imagine that, a whole world where you get younger every day and uneat your lunch. Pretty trippy, right? But in reality, no official discovery of such a universe has been made. Still, the mystery remains one of the most fascinating examples of how science can ignite the imagination. And if you think that's the only weirdness coming from Antarctica, think again. There are endless Google Maps mysteries, weird door-shaped ice formations, so-called pyramids that are really just mountains, and giant ice ships that people believe sailed out of the Bermuda Triangle and got stuck. In almost every case, science has a simple explanation: ice, rock and wind working together to shape the land in strange ways. But it doesn't make these formations any less captivating. It just shows us how powerful nature is at creating illusions that trick our eyes and spark our imaginations. Antarctica is a place of contradictions. It's a frozen desert, yet contains more fresh water than anywhere else on Earth. It's a land of brutal cold, but also evidence of ancient warm forests. It looks dead, but teems with life in hidden lakes and bustling penguin colonies. And above all, it challenges us to see our planet not as a fixed, known place, but as a living, evolving mystery full of secrets we've only just begun to uncover. Now, let's dive into a story that starts with tiny particles and ends with ancient, icy continents. Imagine for a second that everything you know, your life, your choices, your pet's name, your favorite pizza topping, all of it might exist differently somewhere else in another universe. Wild, right? Some scientists propose that every time you make a decision, the universe splits, creating new realities for each possible outcome. This is known as the many worlds theory. According to this mind-boggling idea from quantum physics, every flip of a coin, every path you didn't take, every email you decided not to send, they all happened but in different versions of reality. Picture it, a world where dinosaurs never went extinct and they roam around giant cities. Another world where humans evolved with gills instead of lungs. Maybe there's a version of you out there who chose a different career, never adopted that cat, or never even watched this video. Another theory proposes that after the Big Bang, our universe ballooned outward at an almost unimaginable speed during a period called cosmic inflation. But what if that inflation never stopped in some parts of the cosmos? Some physicists believe this means bubble universes could be constantly forming, each one with its own unique laws of physics. Our universe could be just one of countless cosmic bubbles floating in a vast dark sea. Then there's the idea of shadow matter. We already know about dark matter, that mysterious stuff we can't see, but whose gravity shapes galaxies and keeps stars from flying apart. Some scientists think this dark matter might actually be made of particles similar to ours, but hidden from detection. Imagine whole invisible galaxies, even civilizations right beside us, passing through us unnoticed, forever unknown except through subtle gravitational whispers. All of these remain mathematical possibilities for now. We have no concrete proof, but who knows? One day someone might stumble upon evidence of a neighbor universe or discover creatures living in this shadow realm. While we're on the topic of hidden worlds, let's travel somewhere even more alien than outer space, Antarctica. Today it's an icy, windswept desert, but if you go back 34 million years, you wouldn't find sheets of ice. Instead, you'd discover green forests, conifer trees and tundra. It might look more like modern-day Canada than a frozen wasteland. What happened to transform this lush paradise into an ice-covered continent? Around 50 million years ago, atmospheric carbon dioxide levels were sky-high, about 1,000 to 2,000 parts per million. As those levels started to plummet, global temperatures fell. Meanwhile, tectonic plates shifted. South America and Antarctica drifted apart, opening the Drake Passage and allowing the Antarctic circumpolar current to swirl around the continent like a protective moat of cold water. This current isolated Antarctica from warmer ocean currents, freezing it into the icy fortress we know today. Long before Australia became a land of kangaroos and koalas, it was connected to Antarctica as part of the massive supercontinent Gondwana. When these land masses finally separated, they took with them hidden geological treasures. If you stroll along certain Australian beaches today, you might find shimmering pink sands. Those sands contained garnet, a gemstone used in jewellery. What's fascinating is that this garnet is older than the local mountains. It originated in the trans-Antarctic mountains, released by glacial erosion millions of years ago, then carried by ancient rivers to where it rests today. When you walk on those beaches, you're stepping on a relic of a time when Antarctica wasn't a frozen realm, but a vibrant landscape teeming with life. Speaking of hidden treasures, Antarctica also hides human-made artifacts beneath its thick ice. A British explorer named Chris Brown stumbled upon an entire abandoned building while heading to the so-called Pole of Inaccessibility, the point furthest from any coastline on the continent. Amid fierce blizzards and unexpected aircraft failures, he found an old meteorological station and even a lonely bust of Lenin poking out of the snow. Despite being the driest continent, Antarctica hosts one of the most bizarre natural wonders, Blood Falls. This 5-story crimson waterfall looks like something from a horror movie. It starts as a pool of ancient salty water trapped beneath a glacier, cut off from air and sunlight for millions of years. Over time it became saturated with iron. When this iron-rich water seeps through cracks and meets oxygen, it oxidizes and turns blood red, spilling out like a wound in the ice. Many people believe there are no bugs in Antarctica. While it's true that land insects are nearly non-existent, there is one brave insect called the Antarctic midge, the only true insect native to the continent. In the oceans around Antarctica, however, life is a different story. Down in the dark waters, you can find giant sea spiders stretching up to 20 inches across and breathing through tiny holes in their legs. And if you think the surprises end there, think again. When temperatures rise during the Antarctic summer, snow algae bloom and paint the snow in shades of pink and green, almost like a watermelon. But don't be fooled, this colourful snow is toxic, not some exotic snow cone treat. Antarctica is also a treasure chest for paleontologists. Scientists recently excavated over a ton of fossils, including marine reptiles, ancient birds and dinosaurs from 71 million years ago. To reach these ancient rocks, researchers trek through South America, sail across the perilous Drake Passage and helicopter over icy landscapes to James Ross Island. There, in just a few weeks each year, rocks become accessible as the summer sun melts the ice away. Their finds tell us stories of a time when Antarctica was warm and teeming with prehistoric life. Now, let's dive into the depths of the Southern Ocean. Meet the Antarctic scale worm, a creepy, toothy creature that can grow up to 8 inches long and 4 inches wide. It doesn't actually have a head. What you see is a retractable throat used to grab and devour prey. Despite its horror movie appearance, this worm plays a crucial role in maintaining marine ecosystems. Then there's the Antarctic strawberry feather star, a creature with 20 wiggly arms, each covered in tiny, delicate bumps. It looks like a cross between a sea star and a feather duster designed by an alien artist. In 2014, scientists buried dozens of seismic sensors across the Ross Ice Shelf, an area the size of Texas floating atop the Southern Ocean. These devices picked up a never-ending vibration created by winds whipping across the ice dunes. When converted into sound, it resembles a swarm of cicadas on a hot summer evening. Though eerie, these vibrations help scientists monitor the health of the ice shelf, a vital barrier preventing massive ice sheets from sliding into the ocean and dramatically raising sea levels. Despite its harsh conditions, Antarctica attracts more and more tourists each year. Over 100,000 people visited between 2022 and 2023 alone. Most arrive by cruise ship and step onto the Antarctic Peninsula, where they encounter penguins, seals, and jaw-dropping icebergs up close. Some even try kayaking or helicopter rides for breathtaking views. But for the ultra-adventurous, there's skydiving. It sounds exhilarating, the ultimate bucket list item. But as you're about to hear, it can quickly turn deadly. In 1997, a group of 6 seasoned skydivers, 3 Americans, 2 Norwegians, and 1 Austrian, attempted a record-breaking jump over Antarctica. After waiting out the unpredictable weather in Chile, they finally flew to Patriot Hill's camp. Temperatures hovered around 14 degrees Fahrenheit, relatively mild for Antarctica. They planned to perform a 4-way formation, linking arms and legs mid-air before deploying their parachutes. But the jump was far riskier than any of them realized. Antarctica's surface already sits around 9,000 feet above sea level. Once they jumped from 8,000 feet, they were effectively at an altitude of over 17,000 feet, where oxygen levels are dangerously low. While some used supplemental oxygen, others didn't, a potentially fatal decision. In the thin air, you lose your sense of direction and your reaction time slows. During the fall, they reached speeds up to 200 miles per hour, with temperatures potentially as low as -100 degrees Fahrenheit. One of the Americans, Michael Carnes, realized too late that he was plummeting with no visual reference to tell which way was up or how far he was from the ground. When he saw he was only about 1,000 feet above the ice, he pulled his reserve chute just in time, crashing into the snow but miraculously surviving. The 2 Norwegians also landed safely, but tragically 3 others didn't make it. Investigations suggest that the lack of oxygen might have caused disorientation, making them believe they had more time than they did. In extreme cold and with thin air, your brain can play cruel tricks on you, a fatal cocktail of overconfidence and hypoxia. Yet not all aerial adventures in Antarctica end in tragedy. In 2018, Heather Swan became the first woman to fly a wingsuit over the icy mountains of Antarctica alongside her husband. Their daring flight from 12,000 feet above Union Glacier required almost 2 decades of preparation and ironclad nerves. So, should you put an Antarctic visit on your bucket list? While some travelers describe it as a soul-healing experience, like floating in outer space but on Earth, many scientists now urge caution. Antarctica's fragile ecosystem is already under stress. Sea ice cover has been shrinking, and even small increases in human activity can have a big impact. Perhaps it's better to admire this icy wonder from afar allowing it to remain the untouched, surreal world it has been for millions of years. After all, Antarctica's mysteries are best preserved in the shimmering silence of its endless white horizons, not trampled beneath tourist boots. If you've made it this far, you're officially part of our inner circle of deep thinkers and cosmic wanderers. Don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe to Pharaoh Code, and let us know your wildest theories or thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about parallel universes? Would you ever set foot in Antarctica, or would you rather explore it in your imagination? Thanks for joining us on this journey across dimensions and down to the frozen edges of our world. Until next time, keep questioning everything and stay curious. This is Pharaoh Code signing off.